back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's bringing Papa-Shot basketball games to the workplace everywhere. It's Olivia Richards! Hello!
Hey, it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to, up office morale.
Yeah, that's right. Happy employees are productive employees.
That's exactly it.
Well, by that intro, you might not know the show we're talking about, but it is the CW's first premiere of the season. It's called No Tomorrow. Olivia, what did you think?
I love this show. I think we both, had kind of predicted over the summer when we were previewing the pilots that this was probably going to be one of our favorites, and it did not fail that expectation. I absolutely loved it.
This, I feel like, is the show. What I want to do is sit down every ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox executive and make them watch this pilot and say, this is the comedy you've been trying to make for the last 3 years.
Right?
This is like the single cam. Now, this show is an hour, so it's actually, it's sort of it's very Jane the Virgin in terms of, being a dramedy. It's in that realm. But this captures the kind of single cam comedy that I think The Good Place also captures, but very rarely do networks get right. That kind of where there are wacky characters, but you like all of them. There are characters, there's conflict, and there's differences of opinion, but ultimately you like everyone on screen, and you're rooting for all of them, and you're just kind of wanting everyone to live happily ever after. I think that was the sense I got from this pilot, and that was what I felt watching it. And I feel like almost every show now, every single cam at least, is trying for that and ends up falling flat. So this to me was like the vision of modern comedy executed very, very well in the form of a dramedy on CW.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really glad that you mentioned Jane the Virgin, because I feel like this really makes the perfect third show to fit in with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Jane the Virgin. And I think what those shows do really, really well is that they actually explore the characters that they're writing. They don't treat them like they're, kind of two-dimensional. Like, they actually allow them to be complex, and they really kind of, just focus on not only the individual character, but they actually focus on the character within their environment. They focus on the other characters. The secondary characters on the show aren't just background. I think what I loved about this show in particular is that I would watch a show just about the individual leads. I would easily watch a show about either one of them on their own, but then when you combine the two of them and the way that they play off of each other, it just made for this just genuinely entertaining experience that I was actually really feeling something for these two characters and where they were.
You're absolutely right that it starts with the characters, and that is, I think, the where so many comedies, dramas, whatever you want to call this, fall flat. Is they come up with a premise, they get actors, and then they come up with plots. This episode's going to be about this, that episode's going to be about that, and very little thought is given to how the audience will feel about the characters. And just the overwhelming sense I got from this pilot is that everyone involved with this show loves every character on screen. And that is so important when one of your two leads is like a doomsday prepper. Except he's the opposite of a prepper. He's a doomsday, just someone who's embraced the idea that the apocalypse is occurring in 8 months and is now living his life as if that were set in stone. And that is definitely the case. And the show, I think, makes a heroic effort to make his viewpoint seem rational to him. It's based on sciencey things, and he has a whole big PowerPoint that the female lead quickly opts out of. But it's one of those things where the show loves him, and it's in a lot of ways, I think, one of the big reasons. And this is a show that you and I both love, and that I reference constantly on the podcast. But it's why the Ron Swanson character on Parks and Rec works. Yes. Is that in a different show, that character is a bitter antagonist. And I think in the first season, he kind of was that. If you watch the first season of Parks and Rec, Ron isn't nearly the same kind of beloved character that he would become. And I think the difference was they really embraced that character and who he is, and just and in this, like from the start, the show loves that character, even though he's a comes off like a crazy person and could be really grating and obnoxious. And they embrace him, and they embrace the Evie, the Tori Anderson character, who's these sort of playing sort of the every woman, who has kind of a dead end job, but she needs the job, and she's sort of been caught up in this hurricane of a doomsday guy, and he's just trying to sort of make it all work. And I think it's a very compelling dynamic that is driven by how much the show cares about the characters, and how careful they are to make sure the audience also cares about them.
Oh, absolutely. And I really liked that. I think you had mentioned it when we were previewing it. Like, this show on the surface is about the apocalypse, but really what it kind of gets deeper into is kind of all of our shared feelings of insecurity and our desire to find ourselves, particularly through, I think, like our 20s and 30s, and in a time where things are confusing and you're trying to establish yourself and you're not quite sure, what your place is in the world. You had mentioned, Evie's working at a dead end job and she's insecure in that. And she's also, embracing being 30 and having to get her life together. And then, this possibility of starting over and embracing what could be with this new guy. And I think that's what Jane the Virgin and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend do as well. Like, they introduce this conflict, but it ties in the deeper feelings within these characters and goes deeper into the issue, which a lot of shows fail to do because they just don't take the time to do it, which is why the show was so refreshing to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's also something that we talked about in the preview, and that bears repeating because I think it came to play here, which is flipping the traditional gender roles is a very easy and smart way to do your show. And I can imagine a version of this show, in fact, the version that probably would exist on, like, Fox, where it is a guy who just turned 30, stuck in a office job, meeting a woman who loves to adventure and thinks the world is ending, and is the traditional manic pixie dream girl. And that is, like, there've been movies where that's the premise. And it's like that.
Yep.
That is the traditional way to do this show, and that would feel stale, I think, even if everything else was the same about the show. But just having it be a guy who is the flighty one and who is the impulsive one, I think really, like, there's something to that. Like, the idea of, it's not like diversity or gender equality or whatever just for the sake of that. It's not an ideological thing. It's that it's genuinely more interesting to see this relationship portrayed in a way that it's not usually portrayed. And I think it makes the characters feel more real and less like archetypes, which is what we were just saying about how they feel loved and unique, as opposed to just sort of characters pulled off the sitcom roster and stuck into a premise that some writer came up with.
Oh, exactly. And I love that you said, like, the manic pixie dream girl thing, because I feel like when they were sitting down and writing Evie's character, they very easily could have gone that route and made her kind of obnoxious and, like, two-dimensional. And when they use quirky, it just comes across as just very bland. But to be able to have a character who can have, like, quirks and idiosyncrasies and still make her interesting and complex as a character was what was more fun to watch. So that's kind of what made it the dramedy as opposed to just playing it straight for laughs.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier is much more the sort of manic pixie in this relationship, which is nice. Yeah. He is very much the one who is irresponsible and obviously causes some havoc in this episode. But also the show cares about him enough to give him a reason for that, and of course the defining trait of a manic pixie dream girl is that they have no inner life. That is not animated by the man they are pursuing. And Xavier, you get the sense he very much has that, and we see it at the end where he has... This is a character that would exist if this woman didn't exist. So he is not that, but he's also closer to that than she is. She is very much the foil. She's the straight character in this in this show. She's the quote-unquote straight man who's, the comedy is happening around her, and she is often just sort of at the center of it, representing the view of the audience. And just having that be the female character in the relationship as opposed to the male character, I think is very refreshing. and good. This premiere, I mean, it's tough with the CW because the CW's numbers are lower than other networks. This one did a 0.5 in the demo with 1.5 million viewers, which I think is about in line with what the expectations would be. It's not, not big, but I also think they probably won't be disappointed by those numbers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so do you think this will be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or renewed for another season?
I think it's definitely going to make it through the season.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this show, if the ratings hold, is a wonderful fit for the CW brand, and I think like you said, it goes right along with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, goes right along with Jane the Virgin. It is in that vein. It is a show that if the audiences of those shows watched it, I feel like they would like it, and it's, I think, just very effective at what it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
So your final verdict, Olivia, thumbs up or thumbs down on No Tomorrow?
I love this show. I think this might be within my top 3 of the pilots of 2016 so far. So it's going to be a huge thumbs up for me.
Yeah, overall, this season has been so much better than last season.
God, right?
The quality of these pilots is so much higher. Like, No Tomorrow would have been a freaking revelation last year. Here it's like, yeah, it's like my 3rd or 4th favorite pilot, and I really liked it. So this is a thumbs up for me. This one would get a lot more love from me if there weren't already like 3 or 4 really good shows. So yeah, I mean, wow, I'm optimistic.
Question mark?
Was this some kind of trick? Are we being set up?
We might be.
We might be. So you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Till next time.